What's going on, everybody? Welcome to my latest video here on the Lopes Goes Last podcast channel. I spoke a little while ago about doing some more wrestling content on this channel, and right now we are going to start the most ambitious project that I have done probably in the history of this channel, and I could not be more excited about it. For those of you who saw the Survivor Series predictions, my friend Daniel Lindsay and I came in here and told you everything that we thought was going to happen regarding the latest WWE PLE in Survivor Series back towards Thanksgiving. And right now, instead of doing that for the Royal Rumble, what we wanted to do was, since Royal Rumble is pretty much the start of WrestleMania season, we decided that instead of just doing the Royal Rumble predictions, we are going to be predicting everything between now and WrestleMania in April, or at the very least, every title situation, the tag titles, US title, Intercontinental World titles, everything that involves a championship, we are going to predict from now until WrestleMania. Now, we obviously can't do that in one sitting. It would be 8 hours long. So we have split it up into what was originally 4, now is 5 parts, because we actually recorded all of what you are going to see, plus the next video in one sitting. But because it ended up being a little bit longer than we anticipated, we decided to split it up into 2 parts. This is part 1 of the first episode where we, again, divulge everything that we think is going to happen from now until WrestleMania. I hope you guys enjoy it, and yeah, let's get this thing started. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Lopes Goes Last podcast channel. Separate a little bit from our normal kind of stuff that we do here. We have done this before. I did our Survivor Series predictions alongside Dan, who is back again. I don't know what he's doing here. He wanted some more somehow of this whole thing. I figured that I had talked his head off the first time enough, but apparently he's back for more. And not only that, we're going to be doing this pretty much every week up until the next 4 or 5 weeks, up until leading to the Royal Rumble. So strap in, because what we're going to be doing is a series of booking from now until WrestleMania in April. All of the different title matches and feuds that we are going to be seeing. Now, I don't think we're going to be doing any one-off feuds. Like, for instance, say if Kevin Owens doesn't win a championship, but we have him facing Austin Theory at WrestleMania, just in our own brains, we're probably not going to go over that. But we're just going to go over the title matches that we think are going to happen, which means from right now before Royal Rumble all the way through April. So that is a 4.5 month stretch that we're going to have to be thinking through. And obviously, most of this is going to be wrong. But it's not about being right. It's about having fun, and it's about the creativity of it all. So hopefully you guys enjoy it as much as we're going to enjoy it. I know we put in a good amount of work to get these things done. So hopefully you guys can sit back, relax, and enjoy. First up on the docket is going to be the United States Championship, currently held by YouTube sensation and part-time wrestler Logan Paul. And right now we're going to go over what we think is going to happen, starting with the results of the United States tournament that is currently happening at the time of recording. We saw a couple of matches this past week. Bobby Lashley beating Karrion Kross. And why am I forgetting the second match already? That is really upsetting.
That was Santos.
Bobby Lashley beating Karrion Kross and Santos beating Dragon Lee.
Yes.
I'm going to admit this right now. In preparing for this, I originally had Dragon Lee winning, but for those of you who do not know, Wesley, who was the #1 contender for an entirely different championship, actually had to have major back surgery about a few days before NXT Deadline, which was the pay-per-view that happened this Saturday for NXT. And so what they did was they essentially called down Dragon Lee to replace him because Wesley was supposed to win the title back. But unfortunately, or at least that's the theory, and it was pretty much confirmed when Dragon Lee won the championship. So they basically had to change their plans, and so I would assume that Dragon Lee was supposed to win the first round match, but since he had to go be in NXT now, they had to change on that, and Escobar ended up winning. That's at least my theory. I can't confirm that. I'm not an insider, but that's at least makes sense to me. Those are the matches that have happened so far. We have 2 more matches to talk about. It has been confirmed that Carmelo Hayes is the call-up for NXT, and that's very, very exciting. I'm not the biggest Carmelo Hayes fan in the world, but I can't deny how good he is in the ring. He's very, very fun to watch. I just am not the most in love with his character, but that's just my opinion. I know that you were hoping to see Braun Breaker. Do you want to kind of...
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see Braun Breaker. I can say that I'm not a big fan, or not a big watcher of NXT. I'm trying to watch more NXT. Very excited actually for the fall when it actually gets on TV more instead of just on cable. So I'll probably watch it more. But trying to pull up YouTube clips, going to read and watching PLEs that they have since they're separate weekends usually from they're on the main roster, quote unquote, PLEs. So I'm trying to watch them more. But Braun's just kind of just big dude. I feel like he could throw down with a lot. I mean, a lot of the NXTers right now at the top of the card could probably throw down with a lot of stars on Raw and SmackDown. But I just felt like he'd be a good person just to insert in here, even if he lost his first match. But at the same time, I can kind of see if you're going to bring up that type of a guy, he's held titles. He's held titles for long. Don't exactly want to squash him in a tournament. So I get why they don't, but at the same time, I feel like he needs to appear on the main event scene soon, or be like what they've been doing with Dragon Lee and others. Kind of bouncing them back and forth between NXT and the main roster a little more. I think we'll eventually see. We won't be looking at NXT as a developmental brand per se, 100% as we have been. As it was when Vince was still in control of creative. I think eventually we're going to see it as like a third tier, or it'll be like a second tier brand more than just a developmental brand. So but again, I don't think Braun is really the guy that should be bounced between both. Like once you bring him on the roster, bring him on the roster. So I can see the way with Hayes, but again, Braun could have gone toe to toe with Lashley real easy, Owens real easy, possibly beat either of them. But yeah, so Breaker would have been nice to see. But if they don't want to pull the trigger on him just yet, that's fine. If nobody has seen Deadline, go back and watch that Iron Survivor match.
Great.
Wow. I knew the results going into that match, but it was still just like edge of my seat, especially the last 10 minutes of that match.
Absolutely, yeah. Definitely a very, very good match. I mean, as soon as it's funny, I think I'm forgetting the name of the announcer. That's the head announcer, not Booker T, but the other guy. But I think he said it. Braun Breaker came in and changed the game, and he did. I mean, as soon as 15 minutes rolled around, Iron Survivor's 25, so literally the last 10 minutes of the match, as soon as Braun Breaker's music hit, the whole match changed, and the pacing was much different, and it was really, really fun. But Braun Breaker, not unfortunately in the tournament. It is Carmelo Hayes, and then the last match is going to be Kevin Owens versus Austin Theory. So obviously we know the result of 2 matches. So I will start and kind of go over what I think is going to happen in the other 2 matches. So Carmelo Hayes versus Grayson Waller. I do have Hayes winning that. I think that it is vital to people when they get called up to win their first match. I cannot stand, when guys get called up that they lose their first match. And the reason why I think that is because Carmelo Hayes, you might not, I don't know if you know this or not, Carmelo Hayes has already been called up once, and he lost his first match on Raw to The Miz or something. It wasn't even like Seth Rollins or something like it was a guy who definitely could have afforded for Hayes to win, and it didn't happen, and that made me. Even though again, I already said I'm not the biggest Carmelo Hayes fan on planet Earth. I'm not. I think he's great in the ring. I just don't love his character. I think that he can work on his promos a little bit more. I think once he left Trick, I think really the promos went downhill. I think Trick is a lot of the charisma in that duo. So I don't want Carmelo Hayes to get called up again and lose his first match again. That's just, again, even if I'm not the biggest fan of him, I just don't think anybody should have that fate happen to them. So I have Hayes winning, and then I also have Kevin Owens beating Austin Theory. Which, I mean, quite frankly, I'm pretty sure 99.9% of people outside of Grayson Waller's mom and dad probably have Kevin Owens winning. Yes. And I don't even know if Grayson Waller's mom and dad have him winning. They might not. They might not like him. I don't know how that works. But
right.
So where are you with those two matches?
I'm same with you on the Owens Theory match. I would be rather shocked if Theory won that match. So I pick Owens over that in that match. I'm going the opposite direction with Hayes and Waller though.
Okay.
And part of then I'll explain this more as we kind of look towards WrestleMania why I'm kind of going this way, but I'm going to take Waller or in that match. And I think we've been kind of building to a mini feud between Owens and Waller anyway. So I think Waller beating Hayes kind of serves that, so we can get that matchup that we've been kind of waiting to see. Because I mean Owens keeps knocking everybody out, right? So he's knocked out Theory, and he's going to knock out Waller. So, well, that'll be interesting to see. Hayes, yes, probably would be a huge boost for him. Huge boost for his look, his just for him altogether in the eyes of fans. To win a match, I can see that. I wouldn't be surprised if he won, but I'm going Waller and Owens.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, obviously, story wise, it does make sense. I would just be a little upset.
Yeah, no,
Carmelo
I get that.
Gets called up and loses, because when you make big deals out of NXT call up, who's it gonna be? Like, I just think it's pretty lame to have him lose the first time. But you know what? We've seen it before. I mean, I don't think any true wrestling fan will ever get over Karrion Kross being a dominant, undefeated NXT champion and coming up in his first match on Raw and losing to Jeff Hardy in 2 minutes. I don't while still being NXT champion and still being undefeated, right? Like, it just, and there's a reason why that's considered one of the worst, if not the very worst, NXT call-up in the history of the world outside of, I think, and she's great now, but Chelsea Green, I'm pretty sure the first time she got called up, she, was in a match for a minute and a half and broke her elbow or something. That clearly, I mean,
right.
is the worst NXT call-up ever. Or Sami Zayn. For those of you who don't remember, Sami Zayn blew out his shoulder before his match even started with John, but he still wrestled for 15 minutes. So I think he saves himself from the number one spot for that. But
we will talk about that the other week too. So
exactly. But anyway, so okay. So you have the finals or the semifinals, I guess, being Owens versus Grayson Waller, I assume, and then Lashley versus Escobar.
Yes.
Okay, so then I'll start with Lashley versus Escobar. I'm pretty sure you and I are going to have the same answer, probably for both, but maybe not. I have Lashley winning. Whether you want to do interference from LWO or Carlito or anybody else to cost Escobar, if you just want to have Lashley go over clean, I think it just makes the most sense for Lashley to win in that one. Do you agree?
I agree. We haven't seen Lashley do much. Lashley has held the U.S. title a couple times, so I kind of give a little more credibility to he's coming back for the title, easy storyline, but I would be shocked to kind of, I don't actually, let me take it back. I don't want to say shocked. I think there's a chance Escobar could win because they're trying to push him as a rising star, but Lashley's kind of trying to rebuild his storyline and his, and a new story for him as well. So I would think Lashley over Escobar pretty easily there.
Gotcha. All right. Then that leaves Owens versus Grayson Waller. Again, be pretty surprised if we have different answers. Kevin Owens wins again. Is that also?
Yeah, no, I think, obviously a different opponent for Owens for both of us, but I think we are definitely both in agreement, though. Owens wins. Give us a tournament final of Owens and Lashley.
Perfect. Then Owens versus Lashley. I will let you start this one.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a match that, will be entertaining. It'll be really good. Should main event that Smackdown. It's, two different styles. I want to see how many times Lashley tries to put Kevin Owens in his lock, but, and see how many, if Kevin should break it, how many stunners is Lashley going to take kind of thing. In theory, it should take a couple stunners to put someone like Lashley down, just as big as the man is.
Sure.
But I think that's just a pure entertaining match. Tell a good story, tell a quick story, but it'll be good, entertaining for the fans. But I have Owens winning the tournament.
I agree. I also have Kevin Owens winning the tournament. I wanted it as soon as it was announced, and then I wanted it even more as soon as Kevin Owens came out and got in Logan Paul's face. I mean, I feel like that's whenever...
Yes.
I mean, I feel like most people probably knew. I'd be pretty shocked if that's not the direction they go in, just based on Kevin Owens' popularity and just the promos that we would get for that.
Yes.
I think that would just be really, really great. I mean, I would say that by the time this tournament is over, you're probably going to have 3 weeks-ish, maybe 4, until Rumble. Is there anything in particular you're wanting to happen or thinking is going to happen in those 4 weeks, or is it just going to be, your sort of standard WWE storytelling? Or do you think Logan Paul's not going to show up for 4 weeks? Because we've seen that story told quite a bit as well.
Right. I think maybe we get like a video promo from. I think we get maybe like a video promo from Logan Paul the week after the winner of the tournament, and him. That way we at least see him, and then Owens. What you just said. Both are going to be fun promos between either of them. Paul's still working on his promo work. But at the same time, he's he's taken to this industry very well, very quickly. I know there's a lot of praise for him in upper management of WWE right now. So I think, we'll get that probably 1, maybe 2 episodes before Rumble. I can't do the math in my head, but I'm thinking we're still looking at the other side of the bracket this Friday. The next Friday would be the semifinal matches. So 3 Fridays. We're probably looking at maybe 2 weeks of promos before the Rumble. So 1 week Paul. Maybe we do see Paul in person, but I think we get something from him, maybe either in person or video. The next week, the winner of the tournament, we think Owens comes out and he does his thing. That way we're still seeing the characters on screen, but we're waiting for that confrontation until the Rumble.
Perfect. Yeah, I think something that I would like to see, now I don't know if they would do this because Carmelo Hayes is entrenched in a interesting storyline in NXT right now where, I mentioned Trick Williams a little earlier, they were a tag team, sort of, I guess, a tag team. It was really just Carmelo Hayes being the number one guy and Trick kind of being backup, but Trick is no longer backup, I'll tell you that. I instantly fell in love with Trick Williams as soon as he was away from Carmelo Hayes. And I think so did everybody else in the NXT universe for sure. Especially if NXT Deadline is to go anything by, that place was rocking. When he won the Iron Survivor. But yeah, I think that the chances that he's going to be called up full time is pretty much zero. After the tournament, I don't think he's going to be here long term. I think he's got to finish what they're doing in NXT. I think you've got to have your Trick versus Carmelo Hayes blow off, especially for the NXT Championship, please, and have Trick win, please.
Yes,
exactly. So I think if they decide to keep Carmelo, maybe doing both. Which, we've seen plenty of is with Dom or Becky Lynch or whoever it is. If they want to keep him up on Smackdown, I wouldn't mind, because Kevin Owens is feuding with 2 guys at once, I wouldn't mind seeing a couple of weeks of, at the very least, some backstage vignettes with, Kevin Owens and Carmelo, who maybe now have some kind of respect for one another. Maybe they shake hands after their semifinal match because Hayes gave Owens a heck of a fight, and Owens is a proud man, and so is Carmelo Hayes. So, maybe they have a little bit of respect for one another. You give them a couple tag matches, give Hayes a little bit more time to shine in front of an audience. I don't know, maybe you do that. But outside of that, I don't really have any specifics as to what I would really like to get done. It really just depends on what Logan Paul's willing to do. Is he willing to come to the arena every week, or at least some of the weeks, and kind of get face-to-face with him? Do we have another Logan Paul, Grayson Waller effect, which I think would be number 3?
I think that's right.
Something like that. Like, he's just frequent visitor of the Grayson Waller effect. Maybe you do that. I don't know, but it really depends on what Logan Paul's willing to do. I have a really solid plan, at least in my mind, for after the Rumble. But between the tournament and the Rumble itself, when presumably Owens, at least in our predictions, and Paul would wrestle, I don't really have anything specific. There's a myriad of ways that you can go in, and again, I think as long as you get a microphone in at least Kevin Owens' hands, and have Logan Paul do something where he's retaliating or he's something.
Yeah,
I mean,
I could see
then it'll be good.
2 weeks before Rumble, I could maybe see a face-to-face, like kicking it off. Anytime they've had a big title match that Logan Paul's been involved in, they always do a weigh-in. I've always kind of laughed at it, but they've always
that would
done
actually
them.
be pretty funny.
So between,
if it was Kevin Owens.
so if they
pretty funny.
tape, I'm sure that they would pre-tape it, but if they did that, even if they did do it live, that'd probably been better. So maybe they do that the week before the Rumble, 2 weeks before Rumble. A lot of different. What we're seeing in WWE right now is new things. They're trying things. They try it and it doesn't seem to work. They scrap it. But if they, but I feel like we're seeing new things, we're seeing new directions, and we're seeing that long term, and we're seeing again, hey, if something worked, let's bring it back. That's obviously, works well for Logan Paul for that character because he's had his boxing matches. He's, he likes to proclaim how great of an athlete he is. Not that, and he isn't that bad. Like again, I do think he's taken to, how to get in the ring with a lot of these guys who've been doing this for 10, 15, 20 years, like Owens. I think that's part of the reason I want to see this matchup at Rumble. So I think, that could actually be the good way to, encapsulate that, post-tournament. Maybe promos 1 week, the way in the next week.
Sure.
And we have Rumble.
Yeah, there you go. I like it. Book it.
Sounds
good to me.
All right.
Okay, so just to clarify, again, Kevin Owens versus Logan Paul at the Royal Rumble. We will fast forward to that. Who do you got?
I got Paul retaining. I don't think you put a title on Paul to take him off that quick. There's obviously a different thing that he can do for the WWE that none of the rest of the superstars can. He's got a different reach, different generation that he reaches, a different. I don't want to say you're non-typical wrestling fan, but people who probably watch him and his podcast probably aren't turned into a weekly product for WWE.
Sure.
So
they're tuning in to see Logan Paul. Right.
Yeah, it's all about money at the end. It's what's that bottom line at the end. And Logan Paul gives you a different set of eyeballs that is working. He's obviously getting a reception. It's not always a good reception, but as many other wrestlers have said before, I'm still getting a reaction.
Right. Good
or bad, I'm still getting a reaction. It's worse when you don't get any reaction at all.
Sure.
So I think he retains. I think for a longer build to a longer storyline to WrestleMania is what we'll get into. I think he has to retain for I think who we both want to see the title on in a few months. But
right.
I should I don't think we'll get interference or anything like that. See a non-brass knuckles win, if we're being honest.
Fair enough.
I think Owens can take a lot of punishment, so I think those two can go for a good 12, 15-minute match, and it's good the whole way. And I think that's what you need to do to be a guy like Owens, and that can just take Logan Paul to the next level, I think, in WWE.
I like it. I don't like it, but I like it. Because hey, look, I'm an enormous, as you know, Kevin Owens fan.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of my favorites. Has been for years and years. So I don't want to see Kevin Owens lose any match he's in ever. That's just the way I am. But obviously, the play here is for Logan to retain. It's not even. It's really not a discussion. My brain is like I want to see an attempted brass knuckle finish where he lands it and Owens kicks out anyway, just because I'm a psycho. But
I could go with that.
But that's not a good idea. But no, Logan Paul's going over for sure. I think, like you kind of alluded to, I've got another guy in mind. For now, Owens losing to Logan Paul. I think it would just make sense for it to be, interference from Grayson Waller and Austin Theory based on where I think they're going for WrestleMania, but it's not for any championships, so we won't worry about that aspect necessarily for this.
Yeah.
So regardless, Logan Paul beating Kevin Owens. Now, here is where our stories are going to presumably differ quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because, obviously, it's, the tournament has already been laid in stone, and the story's pretty much been laid in stone, and we can read the writing on the wall. After that, it's all going to be subjective. So here is where our stories are going to differ completely. Dan, I'm going to let you go as long as you want to go, and if you want me to kind of either jump in at that point and then kind of talk my way through up to that point, we can. If you want to go all the way through your whole story to WrestleMania and then I go next, we can do that. But I'm going to let you start and just kind of where your head is at after Royal Rumble.
Right. Well, let's move to the next PLE. So after Rumble, we have Chamber. It's in Australia, which I think is cool. I think it's cool.
I think it is great.
The e-product go international. Multiple PLEs are in 2024 are going to be international, which is going to be great for the product as a whole. Obviously, just letting it loose, see what they can do, cast their net across the world. If you're going to keep the title on Paul, and Paul can be such a draw, I think Paul has to defend at most, if not all, PLEs. And if we're going to keep the title on him through WrestleMania, I think he needs to defend the title at Chamber as well. So my opponent at Chamber is an Australian on the roster who happened to just lose in the tournament. And my thinking is the Friday after Rumble, Waller walks out and he just starts laying Owens and is like, man, Owens should have won that tournament. I should have won the tournament. So you know what? I want to face Paul. If Owens can't beat Paul, I know I can beat Paul. Some kind of shtick like that. And then once he rolls out, we get someone like Santos rolling out. It's like, hey, I had a shot too. And then we have, I think even, probably Bobby roll out too. Why not? So 3 of the competitors from the tournament, or maybe even Hayes. Maybe not Santos, maybe Hayes. Maybe if you want to keep Hayes in that light a little bit, not keep him in front of people. Remind people he's there. You could do that
if he's still, assuming he's still,
or pull him back and forth if you want. But either way, I think you're gonna have a triple threat. The Friday after Rumble, Waller wins that triple threat. Is where I'm going, no matter who he's facing. Could be a one-on-one even, but I think Waller wins that match for number one contender, and he gets to play in front of his home crowd and try for the U.S. title in Elimination Chamber.
All right. Okay. And I assume now you'd like me to...
Sure, yeah. So how do we get from Rumble to Elimination Chamber?
So for me, I'm looking at this as not just the United States Championship title picture, but I'm trying to create an entirely cohesive story that blends everything together. And when I look at the Elimination Chamber, I know that the pay-per-view just can't be 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours long. Right. It can't be. Because if it were, I could do everything I want to do. I could have all the matches that I want to have.
Yes.
But there are just other rivalries and other matches that I think make more sense for Elimination Chamber than a United States Championship match, especially given that Logan Paul is a guy who generally does not show up on the show every week. If you're going to pick somebody to not wrestle, one of the champions, other than Roman, who he might defend the title, but I don't think he's going to defend it in an Elimination Chamber match, I think Logan Paul's the one to not wrestle. My opinion. Now, what you said about Grayson Waller makes a lot of sense. He is from Australia. He should be on the show. And you actually gave me a great idea before the podcast to kind of adjust what I was going to say here. So I'm going to give you credit for that. So what I have is immediately following the Royal Rumble, Friday after Royal Rumble, Nick Aldis is backstage and he's talking to whoever. You pick a person, it doesn't matter. And then he gets a phone call. He puts it on speaker so that the audience can hear it. Or if that might not logistically work for a live audience because, maybe the phone's not loud enough or you can't tell who it is, maybe you do some kind of pre-recorded thing where they make it so you can really clearly hear it. Like, earlier today, Nick Aldis was in his office and he got a phone call from your United States champion or whatever the heck you want to do, right? Either way, he picks up the phone and it's Logan Paul. And Logan Paul essentially claims, Nick, come on, dude. You just had a whole tournament of dudes coming after me and none of them stood a chance? You're telling me all those losers couldn't beat Kevin Owens and I put Kevin Owens down just like that? It's ridiculous. So I'll tell you what I think we should do. I think you should let me pick my opponent at WrestleMania. Because clearly you picking's not a good idea. Like something a real douche would say, like Logan Paul.
That fits his personality perfect.
Exactly. Like something just that makes no sense at all because you're just an absolute just dweeb, right? So Nick Aldis obviously says, Logan, no, I can't do that. You know that's not how this works. Although I will admit, you are right about one thing. I can't do another tournament. That's not going to make sense. So I do have to figure out who your next opponent is, but I'm not going to let you pick. To my math, we should have 4 weeks, I believe, between Rumble and Elimination Chamber. So that's the first week.
Yep.
The next week, another one. Nick Aldis is backstage, or again, it's pre-recorded, whatever you want to do. Logan Paul calls again. Nick, come on. It's been another week. Have you thought about me being able to pick my opponent? I promise you I'm not going to screw you over. I promise you I'm not going to pick, like, Hornswoggle. You don't have to say Hornswoggle, but you know what I'm saying. Like, somebody that clearly Logan Paul is just going to throw around and it's not going to be good. I'm not going to do that to you. You know I want competition. You know I want to be the best. Let me pick my opponent. And Nick Aldis again says, Logan, I'm not going to do that. I'm figuring it out. Really? Are you figuring it out, Nick? Because you don't sound like you are. I will figure it out. And you can tell every week it's weighing on Nick Aldis more and more because guess what Raw has? Gunther. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter who you throw in the ring with him. It's going to be a 4-star match at least, right? So he's trying to match what Raw has because that's the kind of story they're telling. Third week. 3 weeks in a row. Nick Aldis is backstage. He gets a phone call. It's Logan Paul. And he says, come on, man. Let me pick my opponent. I promise I won't screw you over. This is a good idea. Let me do it. And Nick Aldis finally says, you know what? I'll make you a deal. You have until Elimination Chamber to tell me who your opponent is. If you don't tell me who your opponent is by Elimination Chamber, I will pick for you. No questions asked. Deal? Logan Paul says, you got it. I'm in. So, Logan Paul is not on the Smackdown after that. That would be the Smackdown right before the pay-per-view. He is not on the show. But again, Logan Paul now gets the opportunity, presumably, to pick his opponent for WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. So, it's a unique kind of thing that doesn't really happen, but it fits his character, I think. Yep. He weaseled his way into being able to pick his own opponent. You know, like the Paul brothers always do with boxing. So I think it just makes sense. And again, I talked about this a little earlier. I'm trying to save time for other stories that may need longer matches at Elimination Chamber. For instance, a women's Elimination Chamber match or a separate men's number one contenders match that we will talk about in future weeks. Like, there are things that I have in my mind that I need time for. So I'm trying to save some time, but that's not to say that Logan Paul will not be on Elimination Chamber at all. The United States Championship will not be featured at all. It will just look a little bit different than a match because every pay-per-view's got to have some segments that aren't matches.
Right.
So, fast forward to Elimination Chamber in February in Australia. This is his idea now that I said it earlier. I originally had just Logan Paul kind of walking out to the ring. But, you know what? The man's from Australia. Why not let Logan Paul get on the Grayson Waller effect? Give them a hometown Grayson Waller effect with Logan Paul. I know he's been on the show like 3 times, but still. Give them Grayson Waller a little bit. Have them go crazy for him. It would be nice. Let's just do that, right?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, regardless, Logan Paul comes out to the Grayson Waller effect, and Grayson Waller asks, well, mate, there's one question everybody's wanting to know. Who's your opponent at WrestleMania? And Logan Paul is talking about how he's thought long and hard about it. He's thought about it every day. And he's asked his family who he should pick and his brother and everybody, who should I pick? And I finally came to a decision. And before he can say who it is, Nick Aldis comes out. And he says, Logan, I don't think you understood the assignment. I told you you had until Elimination Chamber to tell me your opponent. That means you had until the start of Elimination Chamber. You're about an hour too late. And the fans, go, whoa, kind of thing. And Logan, go, oh, that's bull crap and all that. He can swear if he wants. I don't care what he ever do. But, he throws a fit, basically, and Nick Aldis goes, I'm sorry, Logan, but rules are rules. And so I have picked your opponent as we agreed upon. No questions asked. So, your opponent at WrestleMania is this man. And LA Knight walks down to the ring, gets in there, beats up Logan Paul a little bit as everybody chants yeah until their head falls off their bodies. And because I'm sure Australia would love to see LA Knight, even if it's just for a couple of minutes. He hits his big old elbow drop and all that good stuff. And Logan Paul's furious. And, Grayson Waller tries to attack LA Knight too. And Grayson Waller gets a BFT, sure. And everybody goes home happy. Everybody goes home happy. The Australian crowd saw their hometown kid. They saw LA Knight. And there's your match. Now, where has LA Knight been? LA Knight looks like he's going to be involved in a match at Rumble with Roman Reigns. I have the Bloodline really doing a lot of damage to both Randy and LA Knight during that match, presumably putting both, or at least just LA Knight, out of action for a few weeks. So he's not necessarily on television for a few weeks. I know, WrestleMania season, you want to have all your big-time players, but I think it makes sense. Or you can just not book him for a couple of weeks, whatever you want to do.
Right.
But that's the way I have it playing out. So what do you think?
And I'm 100% with you on LA Knight being the opponent at WrestleMania for Logan Paul. I love your creativity there. We don't have to have that title on the PLE. Again, like you said, these PLEs, I don't know if they've hit the 4-hour mark for a long time outside of Mania. They usually trend about that 3.5 mark.
Royal Rumble's gotten pretty close.
Right.
Because the Rumble matches are an hour 20
Right. They're
each.
long.
So you're talking 2.5 hours just in Rumble matches.
Right.
So.
But we just saw Survivor Series have 2 War Games matches, only 3 other matches. So to your credit, there is a very good chance that there's only 1 or 2 titles defended at Chamber to begin with.
Right.
I like it. You still get Grayson Waller. You get that hometown. And I'm with you on LA Knight. I think LA Knight will definitely be there in that match at Mania. My way of getting into that match is at Chamber. You kind of alluded to this. There's a number 1 contenders match for a title. I don't want to reveal which title yet. We'll save that for another podcast.
Yes.
But LA Knight is in a number 1 contendership match. He loses that match, so that gets him away from any title picture that he's been involved in. Gets him away from the Bloodline. But he comes out after Chamber and he's like, look, I'm ready for any title match. Just give me any title match. And Logan Paul comes out and responds, all right, buddy, let's go. Or even it doesn't have to be that same Smackdown. It could be a week later or whatever. But he's like, let's go. Who wants me? So kind of morphing yours a little bit to where he's like, give me a match. I deserve it. I'm popular. I'm over. Sure. And we're kind of almost looking at like he's almost like the Sami Zayn to Cody Rhodes. He's like the Sami Zayn of last year, like Sami was to Cody. We have LA Knight to Cody. So you got to give him. You have to put him in a picture. You have to put him in a big spotlight. U.S. title, I think, is great for him to be involved in that picture. So, like I said, after Chamber, he comes out and says, "Give me a title." Paul responds like, "Okay, let's see what you got."
Yeah, I mean that certainly makes sense. It's simple. And again, the reason why I had it the way I had it is simply just because I wanted to make sure that there was enough time to tell the other stories to fit, especially for the world titles for both the men and women at WrestleMania. Because it's not just... You got to think about it, guys. There's the IC title, there's the tag titles, there's 2 women's titles, and there's 2 world titles.
Yep.
There's got to be some kind of fulfillment or forward movement in all of those, presumably at Elimination Chamber. If you really needed to have one off,
right,
that like completely like there's no movement at all, you could have the men's tag titles maybe be off. I didn't talk about the women's titles, the women's tag titles there because I don't think WWE cares about it. Never mind me. So
that remains to be seen.
It's one of those. It's one of those things where I just I'm trying to think of other things, and this just happened to be the first topic. So this is the one that got kind of shafted in the end when I'm thinking through everything. But I didn't just like sit down and do this first and go, yeah, I'm gonna screw this. I'm just gonna shaft this.
And to your point too, if you're not if there's probably gonna be a couple titles that are left, or at Rumble you're not gonna see every title defended either. You're gonna see some storylines throughout the actual men's Rumble match and throughout the women's Rumble match that helps further some stories. But we're not gonna see every title probably defended at Rumble. So the same logic. I like your logic there of same logic probably gonna apply at Chamber. Remains being, but I think either way, we're definitely in agreement of Logan Paul versus LA Knight, WrestleMania.
I don't really think we need to make too much of a stink about the build. We obviously know why we're doing the build.
And that's going to be a fire build.
Yeah, it's going to be just promos. Promo. Logan Paul trying to be funny and LA Knight just beating him at every turn. Yeah. So it's going to be a whole thing. I think this one's relatively a no-brainer. Going over at WrestleMania, I think the answer is clearly LA Knight's got to win the title at Mania. That's, I think, why truly you put... obviously to get eyeballs on it, like you mentioned earlier, but the inevitable payoff was so that LA Knight could beat Logan Paul at WrestleMania. Right. I think that just makes the most sense. So that's what I have, and I assume that's where you're going.
Yeah, that's what I have too. Obviously there's a lot of rumors that have been going, honestly, since before even Survivor Series that... we're going to see LA Knight in the picture, U.S. title, Logan Paul, whatever. So the rumors, those keep kind of build. I feel like there's a decent amount of truth to that rumor. Again, I think you have to put Knight in the program separate from the bloodline soon. So if you're truly telling the end of the story with Rhodes and Reigns, if you're truly telling the end of that story, or at least another chapter of that story at WrestleMania, you gotta remove LA Knight from that picture sooner than later. But he's deserved a title shot somewhere. So there's only 3 other titles, and the other 2 are the other brands. So unless you're gonna do a brand swap with him,
sure,
you're not. Yeah. I don't think you're gonna have him you're not gonna put him as a winner of a Rumble, 'cause that's a rumor too, and have him just challenge for the IC or US title. And there's a lot of people in the World Heavyweight title picture right now. Where I don't think he would really fit in that picture right now. And again, separate brand, IC separate brand, so US title is right there in SmackDown.
Fair enough. All right. There you have it, folks. That's us booking the US title, and at least in our opinion, all the way through WrestleMania. Let us know down in the comments if you agree, if you disagree, what you liked, what you didn't like, all that good stuff. Because we're going to keep doing this every single week, so if you don't like it, that's going to be really unfortunate for you. Hey guys, thank you so much for sticking around all the way to the end. I really appreciate all the support that the wrestling aspect of my channel has been getting lately. So if you did happen to like what you saw and you want to see more, please subscribe. Go ahead and like the video. Whatever you guys can do to help support the channel, I'd really appreciate it. And yeah, I just love wrestling, and so this is just awesome that I get to do this, and I hope you guys have as much fun as I do. But anyways, I'll see you all next time.